And joining me now in the studio is Pascal Lamy from the Jacques Delors Institute, a European think tank, and he used to be the head of the World Trade Organization. Thank you very much, Monsieur Lamy, for coming in. Now, before we look at the results of the European elections generally, I'd like to focus on trade, the subject of the report we just broadcast. What do you think these results mean for Europe's future trading relationship with the US?
Well, I think overall, the EU trade policy will have to green somehow in the years to come. And this will make any sort of agreement with the US, who, as you know, have said they would leave the Paris Agreement on climate change, more difficult. What we've seen in the elections is a relative decline of traditional forces, Social Democrats and Christian Democrats, and the rise of liberals on the one side, Greens on the other side. Liberals usually are more open trade. Greens are, at this stage at least, less open trade because they care about food, GMOs, climate change. So this will make trade deals with countries on this planet who do not have the same climate biodiversity policy as the European Union more difficult than in the past.
But isn't it about who the Greens ally with? Because it's not being about the biggest party, it's about being the biggest bloc, right? Or that's what's important.
Correct. You're absolutely correct. We are in for a few days, if not weeks, of uncertainty on what will be the coalition that will elect the next president of the Commission. Is it what's for sure is that this coalition will need to be composed of Christian Democrats, Social Democrats, and Liberals, without which there is no majority in the European Parliament. The open question is whether or not the Greens will join this coalition at a price for participating in the power game in the European Union, which so far they had refused to do. But the fact that the Green group in the European Parliament will be composed of a majority of Germans who have a tradition of participating in local or even Länder governments will probably incline the Greens to participate in this coalition. Now, my own view, for what it's worth, is that even if the Greens would not be part of this coalition, I personally hope they will, but let's assume they will not. The reality is that if you look at the platforms of the parties who've been voted for this election, they all are much greener than 5 or 10 years ago. If you look, for instance, at the platform of La République En Marche in France, Macron's party, if you read it, you would think it's an ecology platform from 5 years ago. Same on the Christian Democrats, same on the Social Democrats. So that's what's going to come, and it's here to stay. And the reason why it's here to stay is look at where young people between 18 and 25 have voted in whatever country where Greens are candidates. A lot of them has voted for the Greens. So if you look at the future, I think this is the way to go.
That's the thing. One of the reasons the turnout was so high, the highest in 20 years, was because of the youth vote. We're seeing behind you the breakup or the makeup, if you like, of the parliament, as far as we know the results so far. We're seeing a fragmentation. Is that, do you think, a worry when it comes to actually getting things done, or a sign of a healthy democratic process?
Those who are used to a British system or a French system will call it fragmentation. Other political cultures in Belgium, in the Netherlands, in Germany will call it the necessity of a coalition. So what is seen as a problem for some, because fragmentation is seen as an opportunity for good compromises on the other side. This is where the European Parliament will have to go. The EU is a parliamentary regime, a parliamentary democracy, and the mainstream of European parliamentary democracies are coalitions. Not the British way, not the French way, where you usually have a majority in parliament on which you can rely. It's something which is a compromise between various views. And the question to come in the European Parliament is whether there will be a coalition agreement, Koalitionsvertrag, as in Germany, which is what you have in Belgium, in the Netherlands, in Germany, which takes a bit of time to be negotiated. And then once this is written, this is how you behave for the next 5 years, or whether this will be a more variable geometry. But what's for sure, that we need a new coalition to elect the next European president, whether Mr. or Madam.
You mentioned Europe having to become greener, or at least that's what a lot of young voters are asking for. What else do you think this new parliament, once it starts getting to work in July, will have to focus on in the next few years?
I think the first big debate is about the next financial framework for the years to come. This is to be done by before the end of 2020. And how do you put more than $1 billion money for all these years is the most important thing they'll have to do. And there will be a debate whether you do it like in the past, with a lot of money for agriculture or regional funding, or more for the future, like energy transition, like research, like innovation, and like defense. So that's, I think, going to change. Overall, the European Union has been focused a lot on internal integration, the internal market, energy policy, transport policy, agricultural policy, regional policy. I think for the years to come, and this doesn't stem so much from the inside but from the outside, it will have to care a lot about the rest of the world. It will have to become a higher weight to gain clout. And of course, with Brexit likely to happen, although we know it's
who knows at this
getting
stage?
this egg out of this omelette is something extremely complex. Although with Brexit, EU will lose a bit of weight. Whether, if you lose weight, you can gain muscle is the open question.
All right. Thank you very much, Pascal Lamy, for your time and your analysis. Thanks for coming in.